Tonight on the Highly Strange Days podcast, we are kicking off our September series where we explore the chilling combination of true crime and a touch of conspiracy or paranormal activity. Tonight, we are delving into the mysterious case of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam, a young woman from Canada, embarked on a world adventure to the United States, stopping at the infamous Cecil Hotel in California. This hotel has housed its share of serial unalivers and people who jumped or flew out of windows without wings, I might add. Visitors reported that Lam exhibited strange behavior before vanishing into thin air. Residents also noticed a strange odor and taste in their water supply around this same time, only to later discover her body in the hotel's water tank on the top of the roof. How did she end up there? Was it criminal, mental, paranormal, or a mix of everything? Well, Shannon's with me here tonight, so let's get into it. You guys could start the algorithm dance party where we just warm up our fingers and we dance them right up to the hearts and thumbs up button. We're coming to you today on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Hi, guys.
We begin with a disturbing development in the search for a young Vancouver woman in Los Angeles. Nearly 3 weeks after Elisa Lam went missing, a body has been found in a water tank on the roof of her hotel. Sinjin Alexander is tracking this. And Sinjin, the obvious question, is it her?
Yeah, I just spoke to the LAPD again, and her body has only just been removed, so it is early. What we do know, it's a woman in her 20s. This is what it looks like at the Cecil Hotel in LA. You can see officials surrounding a water tank. This morning, someone complained about the water pressure at the hotel. When a worker went to investigate, he found the body inside. 21-year-old Elisa Lam went missing on January 31st. She'd been staying at the Cecil. This surveillance video shows the UBC student acting strangely the night she went missing. Once again, the LAPD saying the body has just been recovered.
The coroner now has it. So at this point, it's a coroner's case until the person's identified and we know the cause of death.
So this means we don't know how this woman died or if this is foul play, and those answers may take a few days. Tamara?
All right, thanks a lot for this, Sinjin.
Pretty shocking to a lot of people that she ended up on the roof in water tanks. And a lot of people said things like, how did she even get in there? You know what I mean? And so hence the paranormal, and then she was doing the weird behavior on the lift in the elevator in the, some people call it a lift. It was called both in these reports in the hotel. And so a lot of weird things started going into play. And then there was the Netflix docuseries that came out, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, and boom, bam, bing. You got the Elisa Lam story that just blew up.
Yeah, it's super weird. Now, I do need to ask a quick question here. This article that you have pulled up here, it says that the author is John Travolta?
Yeah, I don't think it's the John Travolta, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's from Medium magazine, and it was written on October 10th, 2023. This is a picture of the woman that we're talking about. Her name is Elisa Lam, but you often hear it. I hear it as Lisa Lam. I think people just say Lisa Lam. So, and she's from Canada. She did have some mental health issues. And so a lot of people have said it's like mental health. And a lot of people say she was pursued by people that either lived or stayed in the hotel because they were kind of like, dorm room type settings when you could stay at the hotel and you would stay with it's not dorm room setting. Is that
like
what it's
hostel?
Called? Hostel. Yeah. Hostel setting. Yep. And so it would be more than one person in the room with you. And she was moved out of a room because she was acting so strange. And she did take mental health medications. And on the morning of February 9th, 2013, within the heart of downtown LA at the Cecil Hotel, a hotel worker named Lopez was inspecting the rooftop water tanks, prompted by guest complaints about low water pressure, discolored water, and an unusual taste. Upon opening the lid of one of the 4,000-gallon water tanks stationed on the roof, Santiago found a partially decaying woman floating face up in the water, her clothing floating beside her. The discovery would end the 19-day search for Elisa Lam, but would only leave this door shrouded in more mystery. Some background here. Lisa came to LA to explore and enjoy the city on her own. She used Amtrak and buses to travel around, making stops like the San Diego Zoo along her journey. She shared her experiences and thoughts on her blog, which she started in mid-2010, named Ether Fields. Is it Ether Fields or Other Fields? Other Fields.
I would say ether. Yeah.
Ether Fields on Blogspot. On her blog, she posted images of fashionable models and shared personal stories, including her ongoing battle with mental health challenges. In a blog post from January 2012, she candidly expressed her frustration with a relapse during that school term, which forced her to drop several classes, leaving her with a profound sense of aimlessness. Her post bore the title, "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life," borrowed from a quote by novelist Chuck. Can't say that last name. I don't know. Do you know that last name?
I've been told it before. I read some of his books. Planiak.
Which she used as a epigraph for her blog, or is that epitaph? Epigraph for her blog. Epigraph. Lisa worried about how her academic transcript marked with numerous withdrawals might affect her ability to pursue further studies and attend graduate school. A little over 2 years into her blogging journey, she announced that she was moving on from her Blogspot blog to a new one on Tumblr called Nouvelle Nouveau. This fresh blog primarily featured fashion photographs, quotes, and a few of her own written posts, all with the same Planiak quotation as its epigraph. Elisa's mental health. Elisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She had been prescribed several medications for her mental health issues, including Wellbutrin and some of those other ones. According to her family, who reportedly kept her mental illness private, Elisa had no history of unaliving herself or attempts, although one report claimed she had previously gone missing for a brief period. Elisa also had a history of not consistently taking her prescribed bipolar medication, which on several occasions led to hallucinations that drove her to seek refuge under her bed. She was hospitalized at least once for one of these episodes. So we will be reading and watching a number of things during this live. I'll either skip over things or stop and start or talk over it. We do this for fair play use. I will put the links to everything we watch or read down in the description. And if you want to take a look at it on your own, you can do that. So moving on into the Cecil Hotel. The place Liam was staying, the Cecil Hotel, was built in the 1920s by hotelers William Banks Hanner and Charles L. Dix. We're actually going to look into a little bit about the Cecil and what makes it haunted. So I'm going to skip over this a little bit. The establishment aimed to cater to both business travelers and tourists. However, despite its initial purpose, the Cecil Hotel gained notoriety over the years for being associated with numerous incidents of violence, unalivings, and unsettling occurrences. And its location near Skid Row, an area with a high concentration of homeless and poverty, further added to its troubled image. It was also the residence of serial unaliver Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, in the 1930s, and saw a series of unalivings by their own hands in the 1960s. In the 1980s, a woman was found raped and murdered in her room, and now the death of Elisa Lam can be added to the list of tragedies. So the disappearance, here was the missing poster for her. She was from Vancouver, British Columbia, and she was traveling in Southern California when she went missing. She was last seen at the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA, it says. Lam is described as an Asian woman of Chinese descent. She had black hair, brown eyes, and stood 5 feet 4 inches tall. She weighed about 115 pounds. She was fluent in English and also spoke Cantonese. The date was January 31st, 2013. Lisa Lam's parents hadn't received word from their daughter. Up until that day, she had been in daily contact with them, so they were pretty upset. The police investigation in response to the report of the disappearance, the police initiated what they say was a thorough search and investigation. Their efforts were aimed at locating the missing young woman and understanding the circumstances surrounding her disappearance. The police utilized search dogs to sweep through the building, including the rooftop, in an effort to locate any trace of Lisa. However, despite these efforts, the search dogs did not detect her scent on the roof. As the days passed with no sign of Lisa, the LAPD recognized the need for additional assistance. On February 6th, a week after her last known sighting, they decided to intensify their efforts to draw more attention to her disappearance and reach a wider audience. They began posting flyers featuring her. There was elevator footage, which we're going to look at. It's been taken off here for some reason. But on February 13th, almost 2 weeks after Elisa Lam's disappearance, the LAPD released elevator surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel recorded on January 31st. This video garnered significant attention, amassing 3 million views and 40,000 comments on Youku, a Chinese video sharing site, within its first 10 days of release. In the roughly 2.5 minutes of footage, Elisa was alone and displayed unusual behavior. She pressed all elevator buttons, looked anxiously into the hallway, and briefly stepped out of the elevator, leaving the doors open. After her return, when the doors failed to close, she eventually left. This video sparked global intrigue. Questions arose about the video's authenticity due to alterations, including an obscured timestamp, possibly slowed down segments, and potential missing footage. This fueled speculation about protecting someone's identity. And then there was discovery of the body on February 19th, 2013. As the search for Lam continued, guests at the Cecil Hotel began complaining, and this is so gross, about issues with water supply. Among these complaints were reports of low water pressure, water with an unusual taste, and even discoloration. 2 days later, on February 21st, a maintenance worker at the Cecil Hotel was tasked with inspecting the rooftop water tanks. We already read this part. So there was a coffee shop within the hotel. Upon opening one of the tanks, he made a grim discovery of her body. Her wristwatch and room key were also located in the tank. The death was initially ruled as accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder noted as a contributing factor. However, a more detailed coroner's report released in June revealed further disturbing details about the condition in which her body was discovered. Her remains had undergone significant decomposition and bloating during her time in the water tank. Her body displayed a greenish hue, with visible marbling on her abdomen and skin separation. Despite her body's distressing state, there were no signs of physical trauma, sexual assault, or signs of unaliving herself. The test revealed traces of prescription medication consistent with what she had been prescribed. And so what happened, the case of Elisa Lam's tragic unaliving at the Cecil Hotel, is shrouded in puzzling circumstances. The doors and staircases leading to the hotel's roof were secured, with only staff having the necessary codes and keys. Any attempt to tamper with these doors would have triggered alarms, so it was said. However, it was speculated that Elisa might have used the hotel's fire escape, which could have bypassed these security measures. Her scent trail was lost near a window connected to the fire escape. Furthermore, a video posted online after her unaliving revealed that the hotel's roof was easily accessible via the fire escape, and 2 of the water tank lids were open. So we're going to get into all of this. What do you think about all of this, Shannon?
Well, I've known some people who were so bipolar that they start to cross over into schizophrenic territory. And so I'm wondering if that was part of her case. She, when I watched the video in the elevator, she's obviously hiding from someone and looking, and then she steps out, and it looks like she's talking to someone. We don't see a person, but we see her talking and making hand movements. Um, I think she was going through a schizophrenic episode and was hiding out in one of the water tanks. And I mean, it was a metal water tank in California. So I'm guessing she baked herself to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that that is what happened. And it's such a tragic case. And I, I, I just can't even imagine dying in that way, baking yourself in hot water like that. But do I think it's paranormal? Probably not. But let's get into it. And by the end of tonight, I'm sure we'll all have our own thoughts on it. All right. So this is the elevator. This is just the footage. So I'm going to let it play. Hopefully there's no music. No, there isn't. Okay. So she
yeah, it
hits
was,
every button.
I, yeah. But why would that be stopping the doors from closing?
It might be thinking, I don't know, but she is standing really far off to the back, like she doesn't want to be seen. And when
Uh-huh.
she peeks her head out, that would stop it from closing for sure.
Oh,
She acts like she thinks someone's following her.
she does. She looks side to side.
I mean, and then she starts to move into these box shape, like reminds me of dragonflies, how they fly in the boxes.
Yeah.
This is the long one where nothing is cut out because I wanted us to be able to look at it.
Yeah.
The news footage, they did cut out part of like where she was standing out there
Mm-hmm. So she
and
hits
hitting
more
the
buttons.
buttons. Yeah, that seems like it would make it jam and think for a long time.
Yeah.
Let's see what people are saying over in chat.
And then this part right here,
Yeah, that's weird too, where she's
I read things that people say she's doing spell work.
yeah, I have read that she is there's this gosh, I can't think of the name of it, but where you can do movement with your hands to make things come into reality. I forget the name of it.
Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, it kind of, I mean, I don't know ASL, but it kind of looked like ASL to me. I wonder if she
Look,
knew sign language.
oh, I don't know.
Can any of our listeners Google that real quick and then let us know in the chat room?
I did Google this. Let me stop this really quick. And I found over on Reddit hand positions for various spells
Ooh.
in order: electricity, fire, heat, light, earth, frost, cold, darkness. Um, Making the hand gestures alone has no effects, although they can still have symbolic power. Example: sadistic witches, male or female, who specialize in uh, shimmer and magic, often salute one another or finish prayers by crossing body animal hand signs and raising them to their lips and forehead, especially respectively symbolizing their skills in hybridizing creatures and their transmorph, fusing the bodies of two or more individuals, usually from different species. But here are some of, she's not doing any of that, I don't think, is she?
Well, when she turns her back on the elevator, she looks like she's doing more sign language.
This looks like it could be sign language too, though. Look at it.
It does.
Ugh, it really looks weird.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's to her find it. Okay. I think here we go. Is this the one we were looking at? No.
Yeah, I think so. It was 3 minutes, 59 seconds long.
Okay. Let's go back. I just want to see what she's doing with her hands here.
Yeah.
All right. See, there was a little symbol she did right there.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make this bigger.
And could you go back just a smidge more?
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Now, here it looks like she's looking back into the elevator to me, like she's talking to someone in here.
Looking in the elevator or to her right?
Well, to her right would be in the elevator. She was kind of like, her shoulders were kind of turned so that her right was facing in.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. But now she does look like she's doing those hand movements. See you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or is that sign language? I think it could go either way.
Yeah. Is there anybody in our chat that knows sign language?
Ooh.
Yes, Giselle, this is the little one that they found in the tank. This is the infamous elevator. And she does leave for a little while.
And the door's still wide open.
Mm-hmm. The door never closes until this moment, which I think it's because she pressed all those buttons. Because you know how an elevator can get confused?
Yeah.
It wasn't sound.
I know. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And why do they only have cameras in the elevator? Why not on the hallways?
Yeah, being such a dangerous hotel, it seems like they would have had them in the hallways.
Mm-hmm. Unless they just want to catch people like having sex in the elevator.
Oh, maybe. Could be. Who knows? I have this.
In-depth video with all the answers. All of them,
Yes,
Amy.
all of the answers. But
That's good.
Answers. Let's see if this gives us answers.
Okay.
The Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles was initially opened in 1924 as a luxurious destination for business travelers and tourists. However, its fortunes declined with the onset of the Great Depression in the 1930s, worsened by its proximity to Skid Row, an area notorious for homelessness and crime. Over time, the hotel transformed from a symbol of elegance into a low-budget lodging facility, often rented by the hour, becoming a hotspot for illicit activities. The Cecil Hotel has been home to notorious criminals, including serial killers Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker. In the mid-1980s, Ramirez, charged with a series of brutal murders and assaults, allegedly resided on the top floor of the Cecil during his reign of terror. It's said that after committing his heinous acts, he would discard his blood-stained clothes in the hotel's dumpster and walk through the lobby unnoticed. A few years later, in the early 90s, another serial killer would call the Cecil Hotel home. Jack Unterweger, an Austrian journalist turned murderer, stayed at the Cecil, seemingly inspired by its dark past. Over the years, the hotel became synonymous with drug overdoses, suicides, and even unexplained deaths. As per one former police officer, when I was on patrol there, you could expect 1 to 3 calls a day from the Cecil.
That's another thing to note. Like, hotels experience more unalivings than you might think. And so a lot of people have like tried to say that the hotel itself is cursed or haunted. But I mean, there's been serial unalivers that's probably stayed at a lot of hotels, I would say.
The constant police presence, combined with tales of screams in the night and mysterious happenings, only added to its notoriety. For many Los Angeles residents, the Cecil became a place to avoid, a dark spot on the city's landscape. Tales of hauntings and paranormal activity began to circulate, further fueling its reputation as a place where the line between the living and the dead was, at best, blurry. Deep in the heart of Vancouver, British Columbia, a story began to unfold long before it intersected with the notorious Cecil Hotel. In the middle of 2010, 21-year-old Elisa Lam initiated a blogspot blog called Ether Fields. Lam came from a close-knit Cantonese-speaking family and was attending the University of British Columbia at the time. Over a span of she shared images of fashionably dressed models along with personal anecdotes.
We're going to actually skip because we've already covered this part of the case.
Elisa checked into the Cecil Hotel January 2020. For the first 2 days, she lived in a shared room on the 5th floor, but was later moved to room 506, a separate room. On January 31st, 2013, the day she to check out of the lift, Elisa was meticulous about staying connected with her family, and her phone records indicated frequent calls back home. Her Tumblr, Nouvelle Nouveau, continued its stream of posts. Her last post was scheduled reblogs, a feature on Tumblr that allows users to queue up content to post. This further deepened the enigma. Online presence continued even in her absence. Elisa had promised her parents she would check in daily. When a day passed without a call on February 1st, it caused a slight concern. As more days went by, that concern turned to alarm. On February 4th, her family finally reported her missing to the LAPD. The Los Angeles Police Department, familiar with the Cecil's infamous history, took the case with immediate seriousness. Initial searches were conducted within the hotel premises. LAPD meticulously combed through her room and every other unoccupied room. "We didn't search every room," Sergeant Rudy Lopez clarified later. "We could only do that if we had probable cause that a crime had taken place." The roof, basement, and other common areas were scoured for any sign or clue of Elisa. Sniffer dogs were brought in, but they...
That shocks me that they didn't search every room. I mean, she was missing, so yeah, I don't know.
Could not pick up her scent after moving through the building. When interviewed, the Cecil's receptionist remembered Elisa as a polite and somewhat reserved young lady. The housekeeping staff who had cleaned her room mentioned it was usually tidy, but there was an abundance of scattered paper, perhaps journal entries or travel notes. Hotel staff who saw Lam that day said she was alone. Outside the hotel, Katie Orphan, the manager of the last bookstore, was the only person who recalled seeing her that day. She told investigators she was outgoing, very lively, very friendly. The Cecil Hotel surveillance system was relatively outdated but functional. Cameras were positioned at main entrances, exits, and certain common areas, including the elevators.
Okay, so it says that they were stationed at the elevators, but they must not have been stationed at the elevators on each floor.
While the elevator footage would later gain notoriety, initial reviews of other camera footages showed Elisa entering and exiting the hotel, often with a cheerful wave to the doorman. But the other videos, when seen in retrospect, showed nothing that hinted at the impending enigma. On February 6th, the LAPD, understanding the weight of public outreach in such cases, held press conferences, presenting Elisa's photograph and detailing her last known whereabouts. Local news channels ran her story, emphasizing her family's distress and the mysterious circumstances of her disappearance. Flyers with her face started appearing all over the city.
I'm starting to think that we've covered it all, because that's what we just covered. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be skipping around, but again, I put the links to everything down in the description for you guys.
Okay.
As days turned into weeks with no sign of Elisa, the LAPD made a strategic decision. They released a portion of the surveillance footage from the Cecil Hotel, hoping it would trigger someone's memory or elicit new leads. The video, spanning just over 4 minutes, showed Elisa's last confirmed sighting in one of the hotel's elevators. This grainy, time-stamped footage from the Cecil Hotel's elevator became the epicenter of countless theories, discussions, and debates.
I think
the video begins with Elisa.
This is where we are landing on where the paranormal rumors came from. I think it's this footage is what's causing, like, if we hadn't gotten this footage, I don't know if anything paranormal would have came from it would have been definitely maybe something nefarious happened because of another human being, but I don't think the paranormal aspect would have come in if we hadn't gotten this footage here.
Yes, I agree with that.
Entering the elevator, looking to her left and right as if ensuring she's alone. She steps in and rather peculiarly presses multiple floor buttons. The elevator doors remain open, adding to the oddity of the situation. Elisa then retreats to the corner, almost as if hiding. Moments later, she steps out, peeks out, and moves in and out of the elevator, with her gestures becoming increasingly frantic and inexplicable. Her hands move in bizarre patterns, and her interactions with the space outside the elevator seem fraught with anxiety or fear. One of the most striking anomalies in the footage was the elevator's refusal to shut its doors, especially since multiple buttons were pressed. Technical experts weighed in. Some pointed out that if the hold door button was pressed, the elevator doors would stay open for a longer duration, but not as long as what was observed. A mechanical inspection of the elevator post-disappearance revealed no significant malfunctions. Soon after the footage's release, the internet was rife with theories. One of which was the elevator game, a supposed paranormal game originating from Korean online communities. The game involves pressing elevator buttons in a specific sequence to allegedly transport oneself to another dimension. Believers in this theory asserted that Elisa's button-pressing pattern and behavior seemed eerily reminiscent of someone attempting this game. Another prevailing theory was the possibility of an unseen presence, perhaps another individual outside the range of the camera. Elisa's behavior resembled someone trying to hide or evade detection. She peered outside, cautiously and anxiously, as though expecting or fearing someone's approach. However, no evidence corroborated the presence of another individual during those crucial moments. For some, especially those from Eastern cultures familiar with spiritual and paranormal stories, her actions were an attempt at communication with unseen entities. Others, particularly from a Western perspective, leaned towards clinical explanations, referencing possible hallucinations or mental health crisis. And yet, some others saw her actions as those of a young woman playing or being whimsical. Several video forensic experts stepped forward, offering to dissect the footage for anomalies. Frame-by-frame analysis were conducted to spot any inconsistencies or telltale signs of tampering. While the video seemed largely uninterrupted, some experts pointed out subtle jumps, suggesting potential missing frames. One of the most debated elements of the video was the timestamp. Parts of it appeared obscured or blurred, making it challenging to see the exact time of the events. This led to rampant speculations. Was it deliberately altered to hide specific details, or merely a consequence of the video's compression or quality degradation? A broad analysis encompassing other CCTV footages from the Cecil Hotel was initiated. While some cameras had clear timestamps, others mirrored the obscurity seen in Elisa's footage, hence ruling out any intentional tampering with the footage. Several psychiatrists and neurologists offered their insights. Some suggested...
I heard that the Hotel Cecil was the hotel that American Horror Story, that when they did Hotel, that it was supposed to be after that. It looked really a lot like it inside. I think it's a beautiful, like that main floor. It's just beautiful to me.
Mm-hmm.
I like the 2030 Art Deco look.
Oh yeah, I do too.
That her movements resembled psychomotor agitation, a state where individuals are compelled to move due to psychological unrest. Others pointed to potential hallucinations or paranoia, driving her to respond to unseen stimuli. Elisa's battle with bipolar disorder was well documented. If taken irregularly or mixed with other substances, certain medications could induce altered states or exacerbate symptoms. Questions arose. Had Elisa been diligently taking her medications? Were there potential drug interactions at play? Toxicology reports would later shed light on this.
We went in depth on the toxicology.
But the possibility that medication or lack thereof influenced her state couldn't be dismissed. A looming question was the Cecil's water tanks. Situated atop the hotel, these 4 by 8 foot water tanks were relatively accessible, yet in the initial stages, they were overlooked. As days unfolded, an unrelated but growing chorus of complaints began to emerge from the Cecil's guests. According to Sabina and Michael Barr, a British couple who was staying at the hotel at that time, the shower was awful. When you turned the tap on, the water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and then it was going back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible, Barr said. It had a very funny, sweety, disgusting taste. It's a very strange taste. I can barely describe it. Faced with these complaints, the Cecil's management responded with initial measures. They checked the hotel's plumbing, queried the municipal water supply, and even dispatched maintenance crews to...
So if they were... So they know this girl's been missing for 19 days. Let's just say like they started getting complaints about the water 5 days before then, like 15 days in. Wouldn't they have thought,
Yeah. You would think.
Inspect the issue. However, the root cause remained elusive. It was a routine day when Santiago Lopez, a maintenance worker responding to the persistent water complaints, decided to inspect the water tanks. Climbing atop the Cecil, he unlocked the access to one of the tanks. Nothing could prepare him for the sight that greeted him. Floating serenely, with the backdrop of LA's skyline, was the lifeless body of Elisa Lam. Forensic teams quickly ascended to the rooftop, meticulously examining the water tanks. Each tank was cylindrical, rising several feet above the rooftop, and featured a metal hatch and secured with a latch. This hatch weighed 20 pounds, and although not overly large, was big enough for a person to squeeze through. While there was a latch on the hatch, it wasn't always secured, suggesting that anyone with determination could potentially access the tank's interior. Forensic experts weighed in on the physical challenges of accessing the tank. For someone of Elisa's petite build, climbing up to and then opening the hatch, especially if it was latched, would be a Herculean task. Moreover, once inside, the sheer depth and the absence of internal fixtures would make exit almost impossible without assistance. The status of the hatch, specifically whether it was open or not when Lopez discovered Elisa's body, remains a subject of debate, which we will cover later in the video. With the grim task of retrieving Elisa's body underway, initial observations were catalogued. Her body floated near the top, suggesting a relatively recent immersion. Oddly, her clothing was found with her, but not on her. There weren't any overt signs of physical trauma or struggle, but the conditions, water, time, and the tank's environment, could have masked subtler signs. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, tasked with performing the autopsy, had a challenge at hand. The immersion in water complicated determinations. However, after thorough examinations, the cause of death was stated as accidental drowning. Toxicology reports, eagerly awaited, indicated no evidence of recreational drugs or alcohol, but did reveal traces of her prescribed medications. Elisa Lam's tragic discovery in the Cecil Hotel's water tank posed as many questions as it answered, like why and how did she end up there? Was this simply an accident, or were there other unknown factors at play? Lopez mentioned that on that particular day, he hadn't observed any issues with the alarm on the rooftop door. Pedro Tovar, the chief engineer at the Cecil, pointed out that there are 4 methods for accessing the rooftop. There are 3 fire escapes that can be reached through interior doors, and 1 external staircase leading up to the roof from the 14th floor. It's important to note that an alarm will be triggered if anyone tried to open the internal door to the roof without it first. Normally, only hotel staff would have the ability to deactivate this alarm. In the event that the alarm does sound, it can be heard by the front desk and occupants of the 14th and 15th floors. According to Tovar, to access the water tanks, first you need to ascend to the platform supporting the tanks. Navigating your way through the narrow space between them and other plumbing equipment, you'd encounter an additional 10-foot ladder that can be used to ascend onto one of the 4 tanks. It seems that Elisa Lam used external staircase to reach the roof of the hotel, as no alarms were triggered, and police dogs lost her scent trail near a window that connected to it. The initial autopsy of Elisa Lam did not yield conclusive results. Coroners stated that they would require 6 to 8 weeks for additional toxicology tests to be conducted before establishing the cause of her death. The report disclosed that there were no notable physical injuries on Elisa Lam's body. The only significant drugs detected in her system were the medications prescribed to manage her bipolar disorder, although it was observed that she was taking smaller doses than prescribed.
We went through all of that.
The sinister history of the Cecil Hotel fueled theories of foul play. While the LAPD never publicly identified any suspects, murmurs within online communities spoke of unidentified guests, past criminals who lodged there, and even hotel staff. However, most of these were based on conjecture rather than concrete evidence. There were no confirmed reports of her being seen with any suspicious individuals. Despite thorough investigations, the LAPD found no concrete evidence of foul play. A widely discussed subject online was the unsettling parallels between the real-life death of Lam and the 2005 horror movie Dark Water. In this film, Dahlia
Yes, I forgot to mention this part. There's a weird Dark Water came out just before this happened.
and her daughter Cecilia move into a new apartment building. Shortly after, Dahlia encounters dark water dripping from her bathroom ceiling. The source of this is eventually revealed to be due to a girl, Natasha Rimsky, who had drowned in the rooftop water tank. Furthermore, Dark Water concludes on a chilling note that resonates eerily with real events. The building's elevator breaks down, and the spirit of Cecilia's mother appears to braid her daughter's hair. Having reviewed all of the available evidence out there on this topic, I've drawn the following conclusion. Elisa was confirmed to be taking these 4 prescription medications to manage her bipolar disorder. The presence of venlafaxine, an antidepressant, in her blood indicates that Elisa likely consumed this medication on the day of her death.
Okay, so I don't really feel like it's giving us anything that we didn't already say. So let's keep going. I have one more thing for tonight. So finally, I thought this would be interesting. Here we have what I've seen living across the street from the Hotel Cecil, the things I've seen, my thoughts about it. And this kind of will tell us like what kind of activities are going on around the Cecil, and what it's like today.
Fun.
Most haunted hotels in the world. You know, no big deal. Gonna tell you the history of the Cecil in less than 30 seconds. Here we go. Cecil opened in 1924. It was the home for many serial killers like Richard Ramirez. There have been hundreds of reported deaths in this hotel. Suicides, homicides, and other bizarre deaths, like people jumping off their window and landing on a pedestrian on the street, and the pedestrian dies. Or the lady who didn't know she was pregnant gave birth in the hotel and then threw the baby out the window. Even the Black Dahlia had stayed at the Cecil and recently vanished after staying there. And people believe that her death was possibly linked to the Cecil Hotel. And then the case of Elisa Lam, which we all know. And there are many more things you can check out on Wikipedia and online. Even Ghost Adventure said this.
The Cecil Hotel has proven to be one of the most haunted places we have ever investigated.
American Horror Story Season 5 Hotel. That season is based off of the Hotel Cecil. A lot of the events that happened on that show in that season were events that actually happened at the Cecil Hotel. The lobby is formatted in the same way the Hotel Cecil is. Ryan Murphy did that on purpose to emulate the Cecil Hotel. So it's called Hotel Portes, aka Cecil Hotel. It really puts in perspective the evil energy that people have felt there. I'm trying to vlog! Thank you. That was nice. So, I really wanted to talk about some of my stories and things that I've seen living across the street. The whole time I've been living here, the hotel has been closed. People are like, it's open.
I can book a hotel room online.
I'm like, you guys, believe me. You can actually go to these websites and click, yes, I want to reserve a room at the Cecil. When you do that, you find it'll say error or psych. I feel like I'm a really good resource for the Cecil because I am literally here all the time watching. 99% of the time, there is nobody there besides filmmaking and that one girl who looked like she was going to jump, which ended up being just an actress on Ghost Adventures. Hey, look at me. Do you need help? The time I called 911 because this girl was about to jump. She had opened the window and it had never been shut. So people in the talk were like, get a drone and fly that drone into the window. And I said, holy shit, yes, that is genius. And this is what happened. Every day and night that I look out my window, I'm reminded that my drone is shattered in a million pieces on the marquee. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, there's my $100 just looking at me saying, you. But I have experienced strange sightings, strange shadows. Some of the lights started just turning on. There was a fan that turned on, a couple of lights that turned on, and the next day they would be turned off. There'd be all these doors open and windows open. The next day it would shut. The curtains in different rooms are slightly different from day to day. And there is nobody going in or out of the hotel. I posted this video.
There's all those stairs on the outside. You don't think there's people climbing up into the hotel to sleep at night, to do drugs? What do you think?
I mean, I would if I was in those kind of situations. And just because he can't see them going in and out of it from the front doesn't mean that there aren't back doors or side doors.
Yeah. And it's Skid Row. Like, okay.
On TikTok. Here's a clip of it. I saw
But I
in the
guess it wouldn't make a good video if there was all that.
hotel, there was an old
That's
man
true.
smoking a cigarette staring at me. And I remember thinking, maybe he's not. How can he even see me? It's pitch black. So I decided to run to the other side of my apartment to see if his head were to follow me. And it did. So he was looking at me and I freaked out, jumped behind the couch to hide. And in that moment, I realized that the Hotel Cecil hasn't even been open for years. It's like practically boarded up right now. I went to peek one more time and he was gone. I'm pretty sure it wasn't my imagination, but I mean, who knows? And then another time I look out my window and I see a shadow. Immediately I thought that's somebody hanging. But I didn't call 911 because I didn't know if it was real. The hotel has been locked up for years. So if I'm calling the cops, they're going to be like, there's nobody who lives here and you're on drugs. And then I came back to the window at one point later in the day and the shadow wasn't there anymore. So I have no idea what I saw, if it was true, if it was. I just have no idea. There's another experience I had here at my apartment, and I had a water bottle like this. It was just sitting on the TV, and it went shot from one side of the room all the way to the other. And I immediately looked at the Cecil Hotel. I was like, the Cecil. And then I burned stage. You know, I'm always really scared to even talk about the Cecil Hotel because I feel like the ghosts are listening. And at one time, the fire alarm was going off. Like I said, no one's in there. So why is the fire alarm going off? So I was telling my friend about this. And right when I had said I was scared because I feel like the ghosts are going to listen, my fire alarm in just my unit went off. Got goosebumps. Burning stage! I just want to let everybody know that right after I said that, the camera died. I
don't doubt that it's probably haunted. I mean, considering all of the things that have come and gone, but a lot of what he's saying again, I think can be explained by humans.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yep. And how much
So-
you want to bet the cops have told him, please, sir, stop calling us about the hotel.
Yeah.
Pick me up off the floor, I've fallen down. I can't help myself anymore since you